Hey guys, welcome to another episode. We are doing some more fabrication. Last week we stuck our engine into our bus, our EJ25 Subaru engine. If you did not catch that, I'll put a link up above and down below in the description for you guys to catch up on where we're at with our VW Subaru swap project. Now the big task this week is building the engine mount. So we've got it installed, we've got the 2 bolts that are on top of the transmission. The motor is mounted to the transmission. They're mated together when we did the install. So we've got those 4 bolts around holding the engine together. We've got that strap holding it up to help support that while we're working out this mount. Now I told you 2 weeks ago on the video where we were doing the welding of our patch panels. I'll also put a link up top for that. We did some patches on here that we're gonna have my friend Rob come over and we're gonna kind of hash that out and how to do it. So he came over this past week and we kind of came up with something like this out of some round tubing that I picked up at the local metal supply, and funky angles and trying to go to the factory location, and we were just tacking it together, and the round tube is kind of hard to work with. So we scrapped that and I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the back to the metal supply and I'm going to get a good length of 3/16 inch thick, 1.5 inch wide square tubing. And it's about this kind of thickness here, nice thick rigid. This is just some scrap left over. And what I've kind of come up with is, through his coaching and advice, is something like this. So we're going to have 2 independent mounts, one on the driver's side, one on the passenger side. We're going to make those first, and then when we make them, so it ends up being like this, because this is our driver's side. I've already made one. So this is our driver's side mount. This is the actual engine mount itself, and this is onto the side of the frame. We have a new hole with a bolt that'll come through it, and I'll show you guys that. But we're going to make another one for the passenger side. Now when we have both of them together, what we'll do is we'll weld a crossbar across to make a U shape. That way, with any sort of torque or anything on the engine, we'll be able to carry through both sides and not be independent in any slack that would be in that. So this is the one side. We already got this one done. We are almost complete with the other side. The passenger side is a much tighter spot. I'm gonna get you guys in there and show you what we're working with. But I've already got it partially done. I'm gonna show you how I mocked it up and came up with something like that for the driver's side. But we're already kind of halfway through this project, and I want to bring you guys in when we had a general idea of what we're doing. So let's hop underneath, let's get this other side finished, get it welded, painted up, and start working on that crossbar, and then we're all set to start working on the rest. All right, so there's a few things I need to update you with. As you can see, there's radiator hoses that go down that way. We do have a radiator installed with a little radiator pan forcing air into it with a mesh front, and that's all plumbed in. This is just hanging for now. And we have a downpipe exhaust installed. It's just open on the other end. There's nothing here yet. So I'll bring you guys up to date with this stuff once we move through this. But my main concern was getting that mated up to here. You can see this nice angle we have. And what we're going to do is have a plate come down from the frame here. It'll mate to this. And I think I have that. So this is going to try and do this one-handed. But ultimately we have this up like that, nice and tall, welded on the bottom, and we'll have a hole through the frame with a bolt through it, and that'll help hold it up, and that's how we're going to weld it. So we're going to mark this, sand down all this coating that's on here, mark it, and we can start welding this one up. So it'll be pretty identical to our driver's side mount. So we're going to get this pulled back out after we mark it, and we can start welding. So we've got our piece marked off. You can see we ground down all this coating that's on here, but we have a little corner cut out, and what we have to do is get our piece aligned on that corner, and this is where we're going to weld it. We're going to do a quick tack on both sides just to hold it in place, and then we're going to go back underneath and see how the fitment is. This is what I did on the other side. It does really help to do just a little spot, and if it's not good, we can just grind it and readjust and remark and grind it flat and stuff, but I think we've got it right. So we're going to dial up our welder and we're going to get this tacked on really quick. Well, we've got it on there, and looks like I missed a little bit there, but we've got it on there enough to test it with. So we're going to get back underneath here, clear all this stuff out of the way, and see how we do with our fitment. We've got a little clamp under there, and we'll be able to test it up and see how it looks. So the bottom is snug on that stud that comes out of our motor mount. And you can see up on the top here that we are making a good contact up here. It's not quite flat, but I think once we get a bolt through here and suck it in, it will be a little bit. I mean, this is a 1/4 inch plate all the way up on both sides. So it's pretty thick material. So once we get a hole through here and drill through this, we should be able to suck that in just a little bit. But we've got lots of good contact to make that mount. And you can see why I'm kind of wanting to attach the two on the back side here, because, you know, just a little bit of strength to it and make me feel better about these. But these are just tacked in, so I think we're okay to weld this all the way around and do that on both sides. And then we can paint it. And then, well, we need to weld the other side, and then we can paint it. But I just want to make sure we had good contact here, start working on the hole on the top for the bolt, like that. The factory mounts are up here, and these go all the way through the frame. So I think they have a little cylinder on the inside that keeps them from being crushed, but this side is not going to have that. But we're not going to put, I mean, that much torque on it. And so I'm not too worried about it, considering it's a thick frame of the car. So let's get this pulled down. We'll weld these all around, and then we start working on that cross section to get them joined. So we've got it welded together. I had to redo a couple areas because it just wasn't making good contact, and there's little gaps here and there. I'm no pro by any means, so don't take me as one, but it's still very hot. But we can see we've got discoloration, so we've got some good penetration of our welds all the way around, and at some points I got pretty good, but other places, you know, we're just gonna not look at that. And so we got pretty good beads some places. We're getting better, but we shaved off all the little slag pieces, all the little flakes of stuff. So we're gonna let this cool because it's very hot, and then we're gonna take it to our drill press. That's what I'm trying to say. And we'll drill a hole on the top, and then we'll mark that out, get a hole in our frame. Then we'll mock this up with a bolt and see how it turned out. We got underneath there and marked our spot for our bolt. I want to have it nice and high away from this and up enough on the frame to where there's enough to support it, not leaving too thin of a line. So we're going to drill a pilot hole, and then we've got one of these stepper bits to bring it up to 1/2 inch, which will be just enough to get a nice thick 1/2 inch bolt through there with a nylon locker nut on there as well. So let's get this drilled out if we plug it in first. How about now? Thank you. All right, not bad. Now we just got to upgrade. Since we got that hole drilled, you can see my little white paint pen mark here. What we did is we put it back on, and I've got a mark up there, that white mark. I measured down with a speed square here to make a mark on the bottom. And I measured the distance to the edge of this lip, this pinch weld of the frame. And I took that same measurement, went up the back side, and there's a mark there. So what we're gonna do is drill a 1/2 inch hole straight across, and in theory, if I measure correctly, that should come out the other side, and we can put a bolt through it, and we'll be right through the frame. So the hole got drilled. We got a nice 1/2-inch bolt right there all the way through. You can see it sticking out the other side, coming all the way through that plate there. Now it is a little bit down. That's just kind of the nature of drilling by hand, but there's tons of material between the bolt and the end here. There's a lot of metal here, so I'm not worried about, you know, it getting pulled through or anything like that. Again, this is not to necessarily just hold up the engine, but this is also to keep from the torque of the engine twisting it. So we've got this roughly installed. It's still loose. I don't have it sucked in or anything like that. But the next challenge would be getting it connected to the other one on the back side. Now, is it something I want to do for peace of mind? Yes, of course. But is it really necessary? I don't know. You guys put it in the comment down below. Let me know if you think I should really add a crossbar between the two to link it all up as one piece. You know, maybe that is the way to go. Everyone I've seen online is one piece, so I'm not sure, but put it down below. Let me know what you guys think. Should I connect these or not? As of right now, I think I'm going to leave them as two separate pieces. We're going to go pick up some bolts that are the right length because these are way too long. And we're going to get this painted. And while it's drying, we'll go get all that hardware and put them in and see how it looks. All right, so we're back from the hardware store, parts store. Everything was dry, so we jumped in and we bolted it in. Now let's take a look. I'm actually really pleased with the way that these look. So we're gonna get down on our creeper here. Oh, and we're gonna start on the driver's side. We're gonna look here, there. So you can see we've got the bolt. It's a nice big 1/2-inch bolt all the way through, washers on both sides, all the way down to a flanged nut there. There is thread locker on these, so they won't vibrate off. But this thing is, I'm moving the whole bus with that. Look it over here, bring our light with us, same thing. See the bolt goes all the way through. Nice big washer. Nice big washer on this side. These washers are actually from our Fiat leftover parts. When we switched out our shocks and things, these are really nice, huge, big, cupped, thick washers. And that was really nice to have that left over. Bolted down, again, another flange nut. Yeah, we're shaking the whole bus by this. So that is definitely in there. And those are nice and tight. And with our exhaust on here, we are getting super, super close. And I'm so thrilled with these. You know, I know. You're looking at this and wondering like, hey, when did that happen? So let me get the bus up and I'll show you this. But I'm super happy with these engine mounts. Square tubing, 3/16 inch thick, 1.5 inch tube, 1/4 inch plate on both sides, welded together. It's gonna work great for us. I'm super thrilled with it. The holes I did drill a little higher than where they marked. That way it'll help pick up just a little bit on the engine, and so we don't have any of that loose movement there. But let me get this other tire on because we had to remove it to drill the hole, and we'll get the bus up and I'll show you guys all the cooling system that I did off camera. It's just running pipes and stuff and rubber hoses and all that exciting stuff. But let me get it up and I'll show you guys. All right, so we're about to head under the bus, but what I've done is installed the radiator with the rubber hoses and lengths of galvanized 2-inch pipe. Now that galvanized pipe is coated once so it won't rust. It's also a really big heat sink because it's a very long stretch of metal tube, so hopefully helps keep it cool. And the 2-inch is really good for the radiator hoses, the rubber hoses, to fit to it. So we're gonna go under here so I can get y'all with some light. So this, I'll start at the front, it'll probably be easier. So you can see at the front we've got put our light up so I can point. So we've got a expanded metal kind of grill with a just solid rod across, and this is a kind of an air ram, so it gets really narrow at the back and forces air in and up and through the radiator and out through the top, and eventually will sink out the back of the frame. Now there's also two 12-inch fans on top of here, and you may be able to see them up there. Let me know if you can. How about now? Now? Can you see them yet? Maybe? Okay. So there's two 12-inch fans up there that are in the mode where they will suck them up and through the radiator so they're not fighting the air being forced in. Now our radiator is also at a rake, so it's flat, it's a little raked back, so it's at an angle.